friends. Welcome back to Home Sweet Homemaker, the podcast for the woman who wants her home to feel like home without having to be perfect about it. I'm Jenny, and I'm so glad you're here. Grab your coffee or your iced tea, find your favorite chair, and let's talk. With me today is my real life best friend, Melody. We've been homemaking together since we were kids, literally. We were friends as kids and both got married and had our first babies when we were 19. She's here to share another perspective on all things homemaking. So, how's your summer feeling so far? If you're in this is magic phase, or maybe you're in the hell, what have I done phase, both are valid, and we're going to talk about it today. And I want to say something right up front because I know who might be listening. Some of you have little ones underfoot right now, and summer feels like a beautiful, exhausting marathon. And some of you are like me, the house got quiet a while ago. My girls are grown now, and in the first summer after my youngest left, I remember standing in the kitchen thinking, what do I even do with the summer that doesn't revolve around everyone's summer activities? So, this episode is for both of us because here's the secret I've learned raising two daughters and then watching them walk out the door. The rhythm was never really about the kids, it was about the home, and you still live there.
Today we're talking about why schedules don't work in the summer. Why total freedom doesn't work either. And the third thing that actually does, gentle rhythms. I'll share what mine looked like when my boys were small and what it looks like now, mostly for me, my husband, our adult kids, and a granddaughter. Because your way isn't wrong, it's just you.
Okay, so schedules versus rhythms. A schedule is a timeline, a rhythm is a flow. So a schedule is like 9 a.m. quiet time, and a rhythm says after breakfast, we have quiet time before we leave the house. So schedules tend to collapse, sometimes the very first time you use them. And when you're an empty nester, it is definitely a lot easier to go with rhythms, I think, because there's only really one of you, maybe two of you with your husband, but likely you both still do different things. When my girls were at home, I thought I always had to have a schedule. And so I would print these schedules online and then I would get stick to them for I don't even know that I ever made it like a couple of weeks. It probably was literally a couple of days because they sounded perfect. If we did every one of those things perfect, life would be perfect. And really what happened was we just went crazy. And, I felt bad because I wasn't sticking to a routine. They didn't have a lot of, what's that word? Structure. And so then I started learning about the rhythm mindset. So when the kids leave, the schedule leaves with them too, right? So the volleyball schedule left. The Anna having, art, anything art related, and going to her friends and just going to her job. All of those things changed and they left. I didn't have school calendars. I didn't have practices. I wasn't the chauffeur anymore. So I had a wide open schedule as far as, my extra time that used to be surrounded, go surround kids' schedules. So if you ever feel strangely like unmoored, then maybe a rhythm is something that can actually help you. I know it has helped me in both the kids are at home and in the empty nesting phase. So rhythms have a margin built in, schedules don't. Let's speak to the moms with littles a bit. So the rhythm you build now is the one that carries you later. I'm many years down the road from where some of you are right now, and I promise the read alouds end, but the rhythm of an afternoon pause you will still keep. I keep that as an empty nester. So building a rhythm seems to be an easier way to be flexible and to change as your kids go through their different phases of growing up. Melody, what do you think about the difference in schedules and rhythms? So, what was it when you were raising your boys in the littles and then as an empty nester, and especially as a first time grandma?
Yeah, I think that the biggest advantage for the rhythms for me is that I always want to have the priority of my people are first. So even though I may have something planned, like, oh, I'm going to do this house task this day, if my son calls and says, can you keep the baby? I want to be available for that. And if I had this strict rhythm or this strict routine, and I was like, oh no, this is the day that I go
Right.
get groceries, I can't do that, then I wouldn't be choosing the
Right.
most important priorities in my life. Whereas with a rhythm, I can think, yes, this is the day I usually do this, but something better came along. So now I can adjust that a little bit. And rhythms help you still at the end of the week, you still get all your things done that need to be done just to make your life
Mhm.
run, but you're not so strict on it that you're not choosing to be there for the most important parts of
Right. So
life.
you still got kind of the best of both worlds, right? So you still got the to be making the memories and you still were, fit in those things that really had to be done. And, sometimes during busier seasons, we do let some things fall off, right? And we're gonna walk through that here in a little bit. So right now we're all in the summer season, and that's gonna look so different. And through many stages of our lives, I know that's looked different. When they're really little, it's just a nice season of play, different kinds of play. If you have 4 seasons like we do where we live, it was a different, it was you got to spend time outdoors, and if you enjoyed water activities, you got to do that, and it was more just about those long days and just spending time together, right? And I don't want to say entertaining them because I don't love to describe it like that, but definitely just spending the time. And then as they got older, they would go through different phases. And by the time my oldest was in high school, a lot of the summer was taken up with volleyball camps and then just friends and then, part-time jobs. And so I didn't really have to make so much of a rhythm. She was already edging out of my personal, home rhythm. And that is definitely something that's going to change. I feel like it almost changed every summer. And for me personally it did because my girls were 8 years apart. So they were never in the same life stage. So every summer with them was, like it was like two different worlds all the time. So I think that having the rhythm where, like Melody said, I think my most important aspect of it was the time with my girls. And so I got to, we didn't have some of the built in, so we didn't have school, and then we didn't have, just like the homework after school or um, the school sports schedule necessarily. So she still was going to summer camps, but those would be like a week or they might even be just a 2 day thing, right? So it wasn't like every day of the week, Monday through Friday. So we had a lot of built in time. And I definitely wanted to enjoy that. And I think I did for the most part. I remember, I think our oldest was probably ninth grade, and Anna was, whatever that made her, definitely early elementary school, first grade maybe. And we were at Walmart getting the last of our older's school supplies. And and it was so busy. It was so busy in there. And we get to the checkout, and that was back in the days when they still had actual people at the checkouts. And so it was a real person that we were talking to. And we put the stuff up there, and both of my girls are with me. And this nice lady, the checker, she says she's getting our school supplies scanned, and she says, "Oh, I bet you're ready." And I said, "Ready for what?" And she said, I bet you've had enough of summer. I bet you're so ready for your kids to go back to school." And I almost started crying. Like I was like, and I said, "No, I actually am sad because I love summer. I love my kids being at home. Like, I don't know, like it literally felt like I had summer again, from like back when I was in school. And I loved school, but boy, did I love summer. I just did. And with my kids, it was even better And we just got to do any of those things we wanted to do. We would go down to the park and we would go to the river and we would, like we would just read books or we would just sit outside or we would go for a walk down the road. Just we didn't have to think about any sort of a routine, and we didn't really have to think, at least until they got older, we didn't really have schedules, to meet up with. So I think that that is definitely some of the most fun times that we had, not sticking to any kind of a schedule. But I think we always did have a natural rhythm, even if we back then I didn't actually know to call it that. I didn't know that, oh, in the morning we were more active. And that's like when we wanted to do something more active. And then after lunch, we kind of did have our own quiet time. Like I would read and they would do whatever. And sometimes, the younger one would read with me. So I think that the rhythm comes more natural to us than the routine. I think that goes along with the summer feeling of kind of go with the flow type thing, but with a little bit of structure to it.
The word that keeps coming to my mind, well, first of all, we know from raising kids that they do better
Yes.
with
With
some
some structure,
structure,
yes.
right. And so I think the word that comes to my mind is intention.
Yes.
I always wanted to go into this summer with, which it was always fun to make the
Yes.
bucket list. It
Hmm.
was always fun to dream about what we were going to do, and even to put in those days of we're going to lay on the
Oh,
trampoline all
totally. Hmm.
afternoon and read books. It doesn't have to be just go, go, go or this complicated list, but it was just a sense of intention that this is what we want our summer to look like, and these are the rhythms we're going to
Hmm.
incorporate to create that.
Yes. Yes. And I'll let you speak for yours, even though I think we're really similar in some of these ways. But even though we're both an empty nester phase now, yours is a little bit different because you also have your first grandchild, and your kids live closer to you than mine do, so you have some natural built-in like family time also. But I still get excited about summer, even like, my kids are grown now, but I still get excited about summer, and I still have like, I almost call it my summer rhythm. And again, this isn't because I purposely designed a rhythm for each season. I think it's part of that seasonal living that I just naturally take to. And I don't know if it's because we do live in an area where we have very distinct, usually, 4 seasons. Although I'm pretty sure we skipped spring this year because I've had my AC on since February 25th and I do not like that. But I still am in my like so I call it my summer rhythm. But I know that at some point during the day, it's usually after lunch, but if I need to do it before lunch, I will totally do it. I feel this need to go sit on my porch and just put my feet up. Sometimes I'll take a book, but actually I usually don't. And if I go out there, I don't know how many animals are going to follow me. I mean, there's going to be anywhere from two to, well, 19 or 21 with the dogs. So it can go anywhere from two to, 21. And so somebody's going to be with me. And so I'm never alone. But it's just that whole, I don't do that in the winter, because that's not my winter thing, right? That's not part of my winter rhythm, but that's part of my summer rhythm. And, but that's not really any different than when my kids were growing up, because I feel like then I just did it with them. And then when they got to where, like, if they were here, they would still go sit on the porch with me. I know that. But they're not here, but I still do that, and I just, like, I still enjoy it. I don't get sad because, oh, but that's what I used to do with my kids. I'm like, it went through those seasons of life with me, and it's still part of like my rhythm for this season. Iced tea is part of like my rhythm for the season. What else? What is part of your rhythm for the season? When I was a kid, it was going to the river, but I really don't hardly ever do that now. But what has
I
stuck
think
with you?
spending a lot of spending a lot of time
Yes.
outdoors
Yeah.
is the big
Hmm.
thing, you know. And speaking of the porch, I even have a rhythm that the weather dictates
Yes.
because the earlier part of the day
Hmm.
I'm out on my front porch because it's shaded and nice, and then as the day goes on, we go out to our
Right.
backyard
Hmm.
because then it's more shaded and comfortable
Yes.
weather-wise. And so even the weather creates rhythms that we
Hmm.
follow.
That's true. I like it. That is very, I guess that's part of like the seasonal thing almost too. Like it's just that it could be like a rainy day in the summer is a little, obviously the temperature is different than a rainy day in the winter, but I still am going to change my rhythm a little bit. Like for a rainy day during those seasons, they just look a little bit different, you know. Although I think I probably speak for you too when I say, but it's somehow it always has a book, a rainy day. There's always a book involved.
And a
And
porch.
probably a porch, yeah. So, you know, like yes, things are a little different now, but I still just kind of have that natural sway rhythm, if you will, you know, to my day during the summer season. And I do feel like I kind of almost tell myself that like it's okay to slow down even more because I don't really feel like
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know. Sometimes I am kind of a get things done type, person. It'll just kind of spiral in my head and just keep going. So I do like to be productive, but sometimes I might focus on it too much. And so then I feel guilt if I get to the end of the day or the end of the week and I'm like, wow, what did I do? Did I really do anything? Or did I just forget what I was doing and move from thing to thing and never actually finish something, you know? But I feel like in summer, it's almost like all those years. It's like I was trained up, right? All those years of childhood and then mom, the mom years where it's okay to slow down. Like you are allowed to slow down. And so for me, summer has always just been a built-in slow down. And part of that, of course, is going to be the heat because we get stupid hot and stupid humidity here. And when we were kids, Melody, I don't know if you had air conditioning when we were kids. We didn't have air conditioning. And so you can't move when it's 100
Right.
plus, what do they call that? The heat
Heat
index. So
index.
yeah, when it's that hot, it's just like you just don't want to move. And so I feel like slow down, right? So we just naturally slow down.
Right. Well, I spent most of my summers with my grandparents here on the
Hmm.
land that we live on now, and they never had air. And they were like, their life is to this day
Hmm.
what I covet and what I am like, okay, I want to
Yes.
live how it felt when I was a kid at my grandparents. And it was always you. First of all, you weren't in the
Right.
house much at
Hmm.
all. There was
Hmm.
daylight. You know, you were outside. I had a favorite tree, this huge shade tree that I used to lay under, read books, play under, whatever. They always had lawn
Hmm.
chairs in their front yards. You sat and you would move your
Yes.
lawn chair
Hmm.
as the shade moved, and then I can remember laying outside after dark and listening
Hmm.
to the whippoorwills and watching the
Yes.
lightning bugs and things like that. There were such little
Hmm.
pleasures as a child that now in my adult life, I understand the
Yes.
value of those summers and what they
Hmm.
look like. So, of course, those are things that as an adult, I have to be more
Hmm.
intentional. It just happened when I was a
Right.
kid, but now as an adult, I have to be more intentional to one, live that life for myself, two, when my kids were
Hmm.
growing up, to have that for them. But more than anything, now, as a grandma myself, I want my grandkids to have that
Right.
kind of summer.
Yes. Yes. And that actually brings us to getting your rhythm for this season. So we're specifically talking about summer right now, but this can apply to any season of life, whether it's like a real time of the year season or it's just a season of life. It really doesn't matter because Melody is touching on the important word for it is intentional. I wasn't I didn't realize I was being intentional when I was younger because I really don't know that I got a brain in my head until like 35 or something. I just like really feel like I really feel like it was just going through every day like in the what are those machines called that we used to play and you would pull the thing and it would hit the ball and it would go like it would just
Oh, what were those?
not ping
Not ping
pong, I
pong.
know. Anyways, somebody let us know.
It'll
Let us
come to
know
me.
if you think of that. Anyways, I kind of felt like I was like that until like my mid 30s or something. But now I realize that, oh, okay, I do remember thinking specifically, like I wanted to have a good summer with my girls and I wanted it to be easygoing. So, I mean, I guess I did have a little bit of intention. I just didn't realize that's what it was. To have that intention, you have to actually put a little bit of intention into the rhythm. You just don't have to be hardcore, and you don't even have to write it down. I mean, if you want to, go ahead. The days can be different. The most important thing is to put some thought into it so that maybe it will actually give you the feelings, give you the transformation, just give you the joy that you're hoping it will. And then I think the second most important thing is to just go easy. Like give yourself grace. This especially if you're like a severe type A personality and all you've ever done is plan to the minute or to the 5 minutes or even to the hour, like every day of your life and your kids and things like that, it's going to feel weird and it's going to feel like completely opposite of what how you usually live your life. If you're a little more of an easygoing person, then probably you're already doing this a little bit. So if you want to put some intentionality to it, then talk to your kids, talk to your spouse, whoever is going to be spending time like with you. If you have a parent that lives with you or something, those are the people that you're going to want to talk to. You don't have to make a list, but I think having a conversation where you just say, you know, hey, what would make summer feel really good to you? Like let's be intentional. You don't even have to like don't call it setting goals unless you think a bucket list is fun, then you don't have to make a bucket list. Just having that conversation. Maybe a kid is like, I've had enough of AR. I don't want to read this summer. If your kids do AR, you understand where that's coming from. We just had a whole conversation about this the other day. Um, Maybe it's I don't know. Like, give me an example, Melody. Like, what are some ways that they can maybe have that conversation, things they can talk about to help, like their kids and their spouses and everybody. Like, what would it look
Well, I think
like?
everyone usually has something they're
Yes.
into
Hmm.
each summer,
True.
a certain hobby that they
Yeah.
really love, or a favorite
Hmm.
pastime. With my boys, there was a year when baseball was the thing. And so for them, if you would have asked them, their ideal summer
Hmm.
day would be, oh, can we go to a
Hmm.
baseball game? And just knowing the interests
Right.
of the people you're spending summer with, and then thinking, okay, that could be the one thing like we're gonna try
Yeah.
to make
Hmm.
happen this summer.
Right.
And it can be the opposite too. It can be like you said, I need a break from this thing, and summer's a
Yes.
wonderful
Yes.
time
Yeah.
for that.
And it can go different ways with, different people in the family. And obviously the more people that you have, I don't want to say complicated, your rhythm will be. It's just the more pieces that there will be to find a way to comfortably, have them together so that you can all get the feelings, the intention that you want, from this summer. Just make it less cumbersome. Give everybody grace. Make it, maybe everybody gives one little part so that that does take things off of, like maybe they give up one little or just one day or whatever of that schedule so that there's a little more time and a little more flexibility and a little more just peace and just time to relax, honestly, because that is what we need for to be able to make a rhythm. We have to have, I don't know that we necessarily have to have flexibility. I think that we have to embrace, I don't know what else to call it besides flexibility, or we have to be just a little more open, maybe, to doing things a little bit differently. So, for example, we've both been through stages in life where we had to let our housework go to a little bit of a lower level than we want it to be, like not done as well, right? Because, or sometimes just something got skipped. Um, and that's okay, because it's going to come back around. And when you do have more time
Mhm.
or more energy or whatever that thing was that caused you to let go of some of that, then it'll, you can get it caught back up, sweep it in the next time. It'll just go into the next flow. And maybe that's what it is. It's just more of a go with the flow, but more go with intentionality. Even when it gets a little bit like, oh, that, like that's not as relaxing as I thought. Well, maybe you think relaxing is different than, somebody else in your family. So as long as you can kind of come to some compromise and understanding with, this is what relaxing is to me. And so I want to have more of a focus on that this summer. And then they get to say that, and somewhere you meet in the middle, and maybe at the end of the summer, you go watch a baseball game. And then the rest of the summer, the boys, like will listen to the baseball games or watch them on TV, right? So like you can still have, and then they play baseball out in the yard. So you still have your focus of
Right.
baseball for the summer, but it's not necessarily taking away from everybody else's, like their rhythm of relaxing for the summer. So another part of this life that we live now, that we have to compromise on so many things. And, having a slow rhythm for summer is, I feel like it's easier with littles. And then obviously for me, it's been easier as an empty nester. Have you found that to be so? It's those in between years, I feel like, because the kids get so busy. And that's when I
Mhm.
feel like it got a little harder.
Well, I can also remember with teenagers, and both my boys, they're a little less than 3 years apart, so their rhythms were
Hmm.
close, what they were doing. But I can remember as they become teenagers, their lives got so
Hmm.
busy, and mine somehow slowed down.
Right.
Once they had driver's
Right.
license and
Yes.
job, and the outside activities and friends that they were going and
Hmm.
doing things with. And then it was almost a strange, that was probably one of the strangest seasons for me because then summer for them, they were busy and going, but I wasn't
Right.
needing to drive them. I wasn't at all the events that they were at like
Mhm.
I had been
Right.
before then. And so that was that there are certain stages in your life when your rhythms really do
Yes.
shift because life
Hmm.
is changing. And I remember feeling like, wow, I'm so much less busy, for lack of a
Hmm.
better word. But I think that then everything comes back around in life. And now I do feel like my summers are a little busier than they were at other
Hmm.
seasons because with adult kids and then with grandbabies, you have more
Right.
people
Yeah.
to do
Uh-huh.
the things with. And so those rhythms that were developed for me personally in my life really come in
Hmm.
handy because they're so ingrained in what my life looks like and figured out so that like with the changing times and all the relationships that I'm blessed enough to have, I'm still able to enjoy
Hmm.
all of it without feeling overwhelmed.
Yes, that's a really good point. I think just finding a rhythm for, your current stage in life or season, it's intentional, you have to have that intentionality, but also, don't. the whole goal is like not to feel overwhelmed, right? Like to slow down, at least slow your rhythm down so that you have rest built in. You have joy, like time, you have time for joy, right? Like you are able to have joy at any given moment because, you've slowed down and you've been intentional with deciding how to spend that time, who to spend that time with. And maybe a little bit like what you're doing together, because some things you do have to have a little bit of plan for. If you're going to go to that Major League Baseball game, you do have to plan for that. But it first starts with the intentionality of my family loves baseball, so we want to make that like an event for this summer. Maybe, like now, I'm an empty nester and I'm in between like don't have a lot of like my mom lives with us and so I don't have to leave to go see her and my I don't have grandkids yet so I don't have a lot of needing to work other people's like schedules and stuff into my life right now. So it's pretty much I do what I want. And so, that sitting on the porch, I like that. Sitting, just taking some odd times. If I'm reading a really good book, I will take a couple of 20-minute times during the day to sit down and read a chapter of that book. Just little things like that. So it's definitely, I don't want to say it cuts down on the overwhelm because I don't really have any overwhelm. But I know that even when my kids were at home and it was busier, that making sure I could do little things like that during, however that changed during each weather season was really instrumental to me being able to. I was super anxious back then in those days. And so that was actually something that helped with anxiety. And now it's just part of my life where I'm like, okay, I've been really focused on whatever today, like the productivity part of my brain, right, has been like really focused. I'm going to take a step back. And I just go to those things, right? Like in the winter I have a cup of tea and then in the summer I'll go sit on the porch and all times a year I'll sit and read a book. It just depends on time of the year where I sit to read that book. Sometimes it's outside, sometimes it's in. So it definitely helps with the overwhelm. And I think that that would be part of summer. I don't know. Like, I think that's part of the joy of summer. I felt that as a kid because I loved school, but it was that 5 days a week and then 2 days at home, right? So then 5 days a week and then 2 days at home. And the days were long for us. We went to a really rural school. And so the bus rides were really, really long. And so that added, it was an hour and a half each way. So it added 3 hours of onto our day so it was a 10-hour day. And so that really felt like we didn't hardly have any time at home before bedtime, because usually of course we had homework. And so it was definitely a something to look forward to for the summer season, even for somebody who likes school. And I will say I'm so glad they didn't have summer school back then because I would have went to summer school because I loved school. And now I'm like, but I didn't want my kids to go to summer school because I wanted to have that summer with them. And so, like I was just really like, if they would have wanted to go, I probably would have let them go. But I was not one of those parents and I didn't need them to go in the sense that it was easier, like it helped with our working life, right? Because I know that that's a serious thing that some people, it's a blessing too. I was just glad that
Yes.
they never wanted to, and we weren't ever in a situation where we had to use that because I still thought of it like that, oh, whew, we get rid of the overwhelm of school, right? You just get a break. You just get a break. And I love
Right.
breaks and I love starting a new season and summer is like a new season after, school ends. A little less so now that we're empty nesters. So we have that weather change, which is nice, but we don't necessarily have like I don't have anybody ending a school year, so I don't really have something like that anymore.
Well, my daughter-in-law is a teacher, and so and she has been a teacher and doing the school thing from the time, like, there was maybe one summer where my youngest was out of school and my daughter-in-law wasn't teaching
Hmm.
yet. Otherwise, I feel like every year of my
Uh-huh.
life since started kindergarten, it has felt like this huge
Yes.
event when
Yes.
school ended because I had kids, or now I have a
Hmm.
daughter that teaches, and it affects,
Hmm.
we always do the last day of school ice cream, and that feels like such the
Yeah.
kickoff. And summer does feel like such a slowing
Hmm.
down and such a just everything just feels like it
Yes.
shifts,
Yes.
just and we talked about this last week. We're so busy in the spring around
Right.
our
Yeah.
house, and we do that with the intention of, well, first of all, after winter there's so much on outside to
Right.
prepare
Hmm.
and to work on. But then we do it with the intention that come summer, we don't want to have all these
Right.
projects. We want them to be done. And our only thing is going to be,
Hmm.
keeping up with the pool and keeping the yard
Right.
mowed.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's how it usually
Yeah.
looks. And I think it's really a testament that you and I, one of my favorite things about our friendship is we are so different. Our personalities are so different, and we just have always understood
Hmm.
each other, and it hasn't negatively impacted the friendship at all.
Oh,
I think it's
no.
probably been
Yeah.
such a positive thing, which we're both very open-minded too.
Yeah.
We don't feel like, oh, there's only
Right.
one right way of doing anything. But I think for both of us and how our lives are, the rhythms add so
Yes.
much.
Hmm.
Even though our lives look so different, our
Yeah. Hmm.
personalities are so different. But the rhythms are still so
Yes.
important
I
to
think
both of
so.
us.
Yeah. And I think that is a perfect testimony to why rhythms are for everybody and routines, because you and I could not share the same written down strict routine, right? Because it just would never work for personalities because of what we both
Right.
had different going on in our lives. But we could talk about rhythms and we can kind of be like, yeah, I have a rhythm where, like I slow down, but I get the stuff done, right? Like it's not stressful. It has helped me ease the overwhelm. So I think that's what I want people to take away from a rhythm is I feel like it's like an amoeba. It'll fit anybody's, like, I'm sorry, science. I'm the science of the two of us. So that right there just proved that. But it just like it conforms to whatever, right? Whatever is in your life at this moment, it conforms to that. And I think there are seasons in life that like every day is you kind of go through a stage where you're kind of making up your a new rhythm each day. I can think of situations where people go through something really hard. They lose a close loved one, or somebody just gets sick, and it adds another layer to that, right? Somebody loses a job, or somebody starts a job, and and you will eventually get used to that. Things will always, time really does help us, but during seasons of upheaval, we'll call it, right? Like extreme change. I think it's a lot of almost what can I do to get through today, but with some intention. What I mean, whoever starts out the day thinking, well, I need to make it through the day, but I hope I feel terrible at the end. Nobody says that. Like, how do how do you want to feel at the end of the day? Like, sometimes you just want to be okay. Like, if it's that hard of a life season for whatever, that's going to be success to you. Is if I don't give up by the end of the day, and then sometimes you eventually can get to, if like if I smile today, I like it will have been a good day. So have that thought, and sometimes it's more fun, like we're talking about summer, and it is definitely a little more fun to think about like this rhythm. I'm not in a season of life, praise God, that I have to think about the day. I can kind of look at the season, right? Like look at the whole summer and I can say, you know, I don't want to sit in front of the computer as much. That's part of mine. I want to be outside more. I have to do it in the morning because I, have things that really go awry if I get hot. And like I'm going to pet my animals more because like if I get busy with other stuff, I can't have my hands on the keyboard while I'm petting an animal, so like these are part of I want those in my summer rhythm this summer. So I think that's how we kind of have to set our rhythms, and just doing that, you just know if I have to set it by the day during a season, I will. But right now, if you're in a season, you can look at it for the summer, like both of us are, then, you know, if it's just yourself, then you really set your summer rhythm because that's pretty much how I am. Um, if you have a family, then you have to have that conversation. But the goal is A, to be intentional, B, to slow down slash lessen the overwhelm. I think would be the whole. I mean, I would like everybody to get to the end of summer and look back and say that was a slow summer. That was a slow living summer. And like to be able to just pinpoint like moments where you felt Melody will remember the name of the book. It's the one that Julia Roberts did the movie. We read that book. I think we might have read it in book club or maybe we just read it together. It's something about Frey, and she goes to different parts of the world.
Oh, eat,
Eat, Pray,
pray,
Love.
love.
I'm pretty sure this is in that book where she talks about she had a moment and she just felt like she had never felt before complete peace. And she called it sitting in the palm of God's hand. So she just felt like she was sitting in the palm of God's hand. And I have had a few moments in my life since I read that I have immediately thought of that. And so I would hope everybody would that would be the goal is to get to the end of summer and just be able to look back and just feel such peace and joy and love that you could say this is one of those moments, or even a whole season of it would be better because
Yeah.
that would be my goal for everybody for summer.
And my goal is always at the end of a birthday, a year, anything when I look back. And this isn't always possible, but my goal in my mind is to think that was the best summer
Yeah,
yet.
yeah,
You know, not the best summer ever
right.
because I next summer I
Yes,
hope is even
yes.
better. But I love to look at something and think that was the
Hmm.
best day
Yes.
yet, you
Hmm.
know. That was the best. One of my favorite things with my boys, or if they would ever be like, that was the best birthday ever, because I knew, well, I hope next year's even better.
Yes.
But right now,
Uh-huh.
in this moment, this feels like it's almost like that
Yeah.
checklist of like, oh, that's
Hmm.
great,
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, the sticker from I love the stickers from the teachers when I was a kid. Oh, and it would, be the funny face and like the excitement or the great, like, this is great. And I, I definitely, you can tell I've always been a people pleaser. So, that I just needed that sticker to confirm that, I pleased. That is definitely, you and I have always talked about that. Since we were pretty young, um, about always wanting it to be like wanting to be present, but look forward and not. And I have no, you might remember whatever we watched, whatever we read, whatever the season was back years and years and years ago when we had a conversation about how sad it was that people thought high school was the ultimate. Like that was the best season of their life and then it went downhill from there. Like nothing,
Yeah.
like that was the mountain and nothing was ever as good as that. And how we were like, wow, that was not my high school experience. And we didn't want any season of life to be like we wanted to. I think we knew pretty early we wanted to enjoy life, but we didn't want any one part of life to then keep us there, right? Like to then not continue enjoying. And so we've always been pretty vocal about, like at birthdays and stuff, like we joke and say that we've been training to be grandmas since like we were born, since we were little. And but the point of
Yeah.
that is like you know, yes, it's going to have different things. Yes, it's going to have hardships, but every season of life has something. And, but we're still going to look forward to it. So we're still going to put some joy focused on this exact one right now. And at the end of the summer, we're going to say, wow, that was a great summer. Even if
Yeah.
well, my niece last weekend, we had family come in and they have a 6-month-old Mastiff, which is a very, very large dog. Oh my gosh, such a sweet dog. Um, and the little girls, my niece is 4, but she's a she's a pretty small 4-year-old. And then I think the cousin, I think she's between 2 and 3. I think she's closer to 3. Um, and they were playing, and the dog just he wasn't really trying to play because he's pretty good, about kind of getting that he's rough. But he just kind of poked his head in, wanting to be like, paid attention to, and my niece fell down and she hairline fracture on her wrist. So like yeah. So it was enough pain that first she started crying, but then like in just a couple of minutes she was back up playing. So they thought maybe she just twisted it or something. And when they took her, to the ER that night, they were like it's barely there, but it's a hairline fracture. So they just put the thing that you can take on and off, on her. So even if you get to the end of summer and you're like, oh, I fell down you know, and I fractured my wrist. It can still have so many good things in it. And hopefully
Yes.
your rhythm will slow down even better if that happens. So, you know, you got to look on the bright
But
side.
you gotta look at the, yeah, there's the
Yes,
silver
yes.
lining. I see, and I feel like I read a book like this as a kid. You
Mm.
know, everything comes back to
I
a book we
know, it
read.
really does.
But about something like this, a girl broke her leg or something, and she discovered the love of
Yeah.
something else. And if that
Hmm.
wouldn't have happened, then
Yeah.
she wouldn't
Yes.
have. So there's always, and you know, we know that God has a
Yes.
purpose and a plan for
Mhm.
everything. So, and that's so helpful if something is hard that you're going through to think, okay, God's going to use this for good. And almost, I think 99% of the time in my life so far, everything that has felt hard, I can look back on and find the silver
Yeah.
lining and
Hmm.
find the purpose for it. And so I
Mm.
think having that wisdom, seeing that, okay, that has happened this many times. So
Yeah.
whatever hard thing I'm going
Hmm.
through, that's probably going to be how it
Yes.
turns out
Yes.
also.
And it's part of life. There's a summer season, there's a winter season, and so, uh it will all be good. God works all things to the good for those who love him. So let's let's bring it home. So here's what I want everybody to take into this week, actually into this summer. Um, every single one of you, whether your kitchen is loud, whether it's quiet, you don't have to choose between rigid schedules or total freedom. There's a third way, and it has so much grace. I just feel like the grace is built in to rhythms. Um, so, you know, I like to think like pick the most important thing. And my personal one is the like I'm gonna stop at the computer and get off anytime I want to. That's my thing for the summer. Like that's my one main thing. And then I just know that I don't have to think any further than that because I know me well enough and I know that means I'm going to go downstairs and talk to my mom. I'm going to text one of my girls. I'm going to sit out on the porch. I'm going to get pick up my book. Like I know that I can automatically find something relaxing to do and so but I have to get off the computer, right? So pick your anchor and start from there. So Maybe it's slow mornings. Maybe you want to make sure that your family or just you have a slow morning every single morning. Maybe it's a read aloud after lunch because maybe your whole family likes to read together. Maybe you've got, kids that just love to read, or maybe they're just starting chapter books. That was so fun. And so you're gonna, each read a chapter. So maybe that's the one thing to just kind of build your most of your days around. Maybe it's the porch at sunset, or maybe it's your front porch in the morning and then your back porch in the evening, like Melody. So pick your anchor today. And obviously, you may have to do that with your family. Empty nesters, you probably can do that on your own or maybe with a spouse. And just start there and then let that kind of overflow into building a natural rhythm. So you don't have to put a lot of thought and effort into it. I think that for most people, it kind of happens naturally. If you're really strong type A and you're going to go straight from, I have a really, really detailed routine every day to, I'm going to do this really, feels like not much structure rhythm, then, you may need to have a few anchor points. You might need to have a morning, a midday, and an evening anchor point. But that will still feel really intentional and not overwhelming to you. So there's nothing wrong with that. You work with you. The whole point is to be intentional and to stop the overwhelm so that you can have a nice, relaxing, slow summer. So if today's episode meant something to you, would you please share it with a friend? That's how this little corner of the internet grows, one homemaker telling another and then another. And if you're not on the email list yet, come find us at homesweethomemaker.com. Until next time, friends, keep making your home sweet.